Ace. Hello, 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 everyone. And my beautiful guest is ready as well. Welcome to Choose Happiness, Choose You, one of the many shows we have on the Win-Win Women social media platform and network. Do you know on my show, we talk about happiness, you, how it all connects. And I've known this young lady that you see right next to me for a little bit, but because we're also in a different group together. And aside from the fact that I think she's amazing, she has this interesting title, which is the Body Positive Trainer. And there's a lot more to what she has behind her name and at front of her name, all of that. But Stephanie, let's just jump right in. Body Positive Trainer. What does that mean?
Well, the culture that we live in today has somehow attached the idea of you only exercise for weight loss. And a lot of that comes then with the attachment of diet culture and food restriction and so much around our body. I mean, just in the United States alone, the diet industry is a $72 billion a year industry. And when we pull back a little bit and look at why we move our bodies, why we're have the desire to move our body, it really doesn't revolve around weight loss. We have so many goals in moving our body that are not attached to those ambiguous markers like the scale, like the body mass index.
Right.
So as a body positive personal trainer, it's really looking at the whole person. What do you want to achieve? And really finding the joy in movement.
The joy in movement. So I am body positive because every morning I either ride my bike to my daughter's school or I walk.
If that's something that it's about the mindset in why we're moving. If you're moving because that's something you enjoy as opposed to getting in the car and doing that, fabulous. But if you're doing it out of a sense of obligation, if there's another message attached to that movement, then we need to look at the why. Do you enjoy walking? Do you enjoy riding your bike? But maybe, is it the best time of day for you? And things like that, so that you're really reaping the maximum benefit from that movement for why you're doing it in the first place.
So that means it's really, I love this because it's really about I choose me, I choose my body, therefore I move.
Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you're out there in warm, sunny Arizona.
Yes.
I believe it's Lake Havasu, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and out there, I think there are a lot of opportunities to go outside and all of that. How important is it not just to move the body, but also to find your inner center? I do happen to know that you're also doing yoga. So how important is the combination of all of this?
Well, we all find our different joy in movement. You mentioned yoga. I was just having a conversation yesterday. Like, yoga is something that it took me a while to appreciate. It was something I wanted to do. I wanted to learn to really enhance my own performance in the other things that I enjoy, but really get that stretching, that just to slow my body down, because I really like things that are fast, that are in repetition. And so slowing down. But when we're engaged in movement, when we're engaged in the exercise, whatever that looks like, that feeds our soul, that really gets into us then it doesn't matter what it is. But as long as we're doing it, things are great. You know, for me, like the place where everything is right in the world and there's peace in everything is when I'm on my bike or when I'm running. Those long distances, those long workouts where, you know, I can sort out everything in life. And you know, you can't be on the phone, there's no distractions, but it's just me and, you know, getting everything out and through my head.
I can relate to that because I love walking. Like whenever there's stuff going on in my head, I go outside and I walk. And of course, you know, I have the benefit that there's usually some wind where I live, and I feel like it's blowing everything out of my head at that point and really clearing out all the stuff that is not for me. So I can absolutely relate. Now, how did you get to do what you're doing? Because it's not just that you're a trainer, you've got certifications, you run marathons, you work with groups, you even teach at the college. So how did you get there? What happened where you woke up and said, whoa, this is what I want to do?
You know, I have not always been in the health and wellness space. I spent the majority of the last 20 years in full-time ministry. My husband and I were pastors. And I had come to this point where I just didn't feel good. I was going through the motions of life. And I'm a person that's been overweight my entire life. I was put on my first diet at 5 years old. So you can't tell me there's not a diet I haven't tried. But I knew that there wasn't a solution in dieting and changing my body that was going to make me feel better. But something still had to change. And I didn't really know what it was, but I'm this type A person, this linear thinker. So I'm like, all right, look around, let's see what we can change. And, you know, it was starting very small. And the first thing that I did was drink water and build that habit of drinking water with a little tiny cup and a kitchen timer, going back and forth from the water cooler all day, establishing this habit of hydration. Then it became, let's cook at home instead of going to the drive-through, just cooking at home. Doesn't matter the food, whatever, just cook at home. Then it became, let's change the foods we're preparing. Let's look at what makes us feel good physically, and started to feel better at that point, and had then said, okay, I think I'm ready for some movement. Like, you know, you just get that point, like when you feel pretty good, you're like, okay, I want to move my body.
Right.
But at this point, I was in a body size that I was pretty close to losing my mobility. And so I like, okay, probably the only thing I can do is walk, which really was not reality. But in my mind, that was the only possible thing. So go out, walk to the end of the street and back, and I want to die. It was like the world's worst thing. But then that walk up and down the street became around the block, around the neighborhood, and further. The one day I get this idea in my mind. I don't know where it came from, because I'm the girl that fakes sick in gym class. But I'm like, I wonder if I can run. And so, like, stop sign, like 50 yards down the road, run to this stop sign. Again, it's that feeling of I want to die. But also something switched in my head where I'm like, ooh, I like this. I really like this running thing. So I go home and I'm like, I'm going to figure out this fat girl running thing and, go through the whole training plans and building up and everything. And what started as that cup of water then became 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, jumping over into triathlon. And so built, from where I was to training for Ironman distance races, without focusing on weight, without focusing on any type of food restriction, intentional dieting, but just through those things that felt good, that I enjoyed, I lost over 200 pounds, not even paying attention to it.
Let me ask you a question here, because I love the story. You had mentioned, every diet, and I'm not a believer in diets because I think it's just a yo-yo moment.
Yes.
However, you said you're married. So was your husband participating in you drinking water, walking, running, or was he doing his own thing?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
My husband has his own health concerns and has found the ways for himself that are supportive for him. And the nice thing is that we both have those individual goals. We both have those different things that we strive for. But he has always been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. And I've never come to him with an idea, with some kind of craziness that I'm going to do. He's never given me negative feedback. He's never said, no, I don't think that's a really good idea. He's like, well, try it. It's never that, well, it's okay if you try and fail, but it's like, go for it, try it. And it's a very big difference between having that relationship where you have that back and forth versus having that encourager, having that supporter to figure out what's right for you.
Well, I'm asking that because, choose happiness, choose you. And the story that you're telling is you listen to yourself, you listen to your body, you don't know where the intuition or so came from, but you did it regardless. So you did it because it felt right for you. That's a choice. And in your case, of course, the choice became bigger and bigger. I mean, triathlon, I would literally die. Just running after my girl is like, oh my God. But at the same time, you have that support system. So your mindset shifted, you have the support system. Now you're trying out yoga and other things. Since you work as a personal trainer, body fitness, all those things, what if you don't have the support?
That's where building an accountability system comes in.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, like, accountability has become this dirty word for people. But all it is those systems and structures and people that help you move to where you want to be. And because we all have different goals, we all have different things we're striving for. There's not one place that we can always depend on. And so I think that's why it's important to have accountability. It's important to build that accountability network of people that can support you, that can encourage you, that can provide you resources in a lot of different areas that are very specific. I talk about things in the physical, emotional, and spiritual realm, building the whole person. I have my coach, my sports dietitian. Those are the people that help me physically, and my doctor and all those wonderful people that, look at that physical person, that emotional health. There are support groups. Therapy is amazing. And, just those different things that support us in what our emotional needs or what our emotional goals that we have. And the same with the spiritual life, regardless of what you believe, that belief needs to grow. It can't stay stagnant. And so what are you doing to build up that spiritual self?
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk more for a moment about the physical body itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in love with the idea of body positive, right? It's a completely different relation that one is then having. The physical. So obviously, if you're doing the triathlon, if you're running in the heat of Arizona, you need to be healthy. You need to watch your physical health. You need to watch how much you're drinking, what you're drinking, because not every water is the same. So how does it work with for example, rapid weight loss, or with people who come to you and say, I want you to be my coach? Do you advise them also to consult a doctor so that it's not like, boom, all of a sudden your system shuts down, or how does that work?
Well, with any fitness program, you need to be able to have that clearance from a physician that you are healthy enough, that you're able to start what you want to do. But when you're looking at starting anything, the best thing to do is have that support. And it might be from any type of different professional, because we all have different personalities. We all learn and grow in different ways. And so the hard part is, if it's something very new to you, well, who do I turn to for help? Sometimes we need a little assistance in that area to figure out who do I actually need to achieve what it is that I'm going for.
Absolutely. And that's where you said, you have your coaches too, you have the doctor, you also happen to have your husband and friends. So that support system seems to be very, very crucial. And then to go back into the general conversation, mental, spiritual, physical. So there's somebody who doesn't have the support, for example, as we just said. It can also be that that they have the opposite of support, let's say. Okay, I was like trying to figure out how to say it. So they're like, they might not know how. That's usually the case, that people don't know how, but it's like, it doesn't feel right. I don't want to die. I do want to do something, but they can't break away from their environment. Do you have any recommendations for them? Because some people, are in narcissistic relationships, whatever.
Absolutely. A lot of it is, even when you're in some type of negative environment, there are still things that you can do to feed into yourself. And especially, like you said, when you're in those narcissistic relationships, when you don't have a support system around you, well, how is it that I do take care of myself? And it's a hard place to get to in the mind, that we are first, that we are number one. That if we don't take care of ourselves, that if we are not running at full capacity, we have no bandwidth to serve anyone else around us. And if you're able to start to make that mind shift, if you're able to start to be in that space where I'm taking care of myself so that I can do XYZ, that I can be there for XYZ, whatever it is, then you start to change. You start to see the toxicity around you. And in most cases, people start to say, this is unacceptable. I don't have to accept this. I don't have to have this influence in my life, I don't have to live like this. If the more we're continuing to feed into ourselves, to be open, to serve others, I really have that firm belief that we reach the point in our growth. It may not happen immediately, but if we keep doing the little things, we reach that point where enough is enough, and we're able to take the next steps, whatever that looks like. Maybe it is removing a relationship that gets us to continue down that path of serving ourselves, of living the best way that we can.
Right. Those are all the difference, because I know you're also doing very individualized coaching and advising and so forth. And the last main question that I have is about food. Of course, I have to talk about food. The official term, of course, is nutrition. I'm thinking food. But when it comes to food, there are so many things out there right now about what is right, what is not right. I'm not even thinking about the diet industry, especially in the US. And so to share a little bit just from my front, I never planned to become a vegetarian, a vegan, or anything like that, because I do believe I need to listen to my body. So literally, when my body says I need a gallon of ice cream, it's going to get that gallon of ice cream. Sorry, but then I don't need it. And so I have noticed that in the last few years, I've moved away more and more from fish, meat, and so forth. I don't call myself vegan or vegetarian or anything like that, because again, when I feel like having a steak, I will have a steak. So what are your thoughts on all of these movements and the ideas that are out there?
You just really summed it up well, in that we have to listen to our bodies. It's harder in practice than saying it, though, because we have all those messages around us that this is good, that is bad, this is healthy, this is unhealthy. And at the end of the day, it's a load of baloney. It really is.
There's the meat.
because think about a toddler and how they consume food. They know what they like. They know what they don't like. Sometimes they're going to eat an entire plate of food and still want more. Other times they're going to take 3 bites and walk away, and they're good. They understand their body. They understand the foods that, whatever it is, taste, feel, how food is affecting them. And that is the intuition that all of us are born with around food. We have a really good relationship with food until somewhere we get these external markers that change it up. If we're able to get back to that point, to really listen to what our body needs, it's going to tell us. And we're the experts of our own body. So when we have so many of these messages coming in and saying, you have to do this, or you need to do this, it's being able to tune out the noise. And like you said, if I want ice cream, I'm going to have ice cream, but generally I'm feeding my body in a different way that makes it feel really good, that I'm moving, that I feel supported, that I have the energy for the day.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the individualized piece, like you said, right? And just like, some of us have allergies, others don't. And I also always, every single day, I have at least one homemade cafe latte. I fully admit to that guilty pleasure. And yet at the same time, when I'm not feeling it, I'm not drinking it. So how do you, we're almost out of time, but how do you help people figure out how to listen to their bodies because of all the messages, right? And sometimes we just eat. We don't even know what we're eating. We're just possibly while we're watching TV. How do you help them get back to choosing themselves and their own body?
That is a process.
Right.
I wish it was something that I could just flip a switch and we've all found that natural intuition again. But it's not reality, because our messaging around food, the way we've been brought up around food, so much changes our relationship with food through the years. So there's a lot of different exercises. There's a lot of different things that I walk somebody through depending on where they are in relationship to food and their body.
Right.
But it's getting back to mindfulness, tuning out the noise when we're eating, putting down the phone, getting away from the TV, sitting at the table, and really being present with the food that's in front of you. Are you tasting it? What's the texture? What's the temperature? Does this taste good? Is this something I'd actually really want to have again? Getting that mindful piece, but then also looking at and introducing the principles of intuitive eating, where we take out the restriction, where we pull out the food rules, and really navigate that place of does a person understand hunger, satisfaction, and fullness?
Right.
How do individual foods affect the body? And it's having an openness and being willing to experiment.
Yeah.
Because we don't come to that place overnight where we're like, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. It's a constantly changing process.
Cool. And then the last question. You have a book.
Yes.
And that is Break Free 2, right? I think the word is 2. Break Free to Health and Vitality. Why should I read it?
Well, everybody should read it because it's an amazing book, but it's a compilation of 18 different stories. And the people that came together on this book, throughout the world, we all have our different stories. We all have our different transformation in the area of health and wellness. And it's taking that journey and what are the starting points? What is the takeaway that if this resonated with you, how do I get started? Where do I begin that first step in what that incredible change looked like? Because, I think somewhere along the line, we're all hooked into this idea of inspiration porn, that we pull all this inspirational material, but then what do we do with it?
Right.
So this is not only let's get you hyped up, but it's here's how you take the next steps to get this for yourself.
That's awesome. And it's always, you shared your story and I just put a couple of my things in, but it's so important to understand how unique we all are. And then to develop or redevelop that relationship with the body, because when we were kids, we loved our bodies.
Yes.
Stephanie, I have like 90 seconds. So how can people get in touch with you should they want to know more about the amazing work that you do or follow you on a marathon or a triathlon?
Well, I am all over social media. At some iteration of heart and soul fitness and wellness, because of course you gotta fit the algorithm, but it's heart and soul SOLE fitness and wellness. Easiest way to find me though is my website, heart and soul SOLE fit.com. My blog, all my goodies are there. You can get on my calendar to have a conversation. And I'm pretty sure you can even get to all my social media from there as well.
Yes, you can. I know that because I've been on your website and I put it in the description. So thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and I know how early it is. So thank you, everybody in the audience, watching now, watching later. Thank you. Next week, I don't know what topic we'll have yet, but it'll be about you and your happiness. So just a heads up on that. just in case you were wondering, don't forget to jump over to the Win-Win Women site and store in case you, for example, want to have something from me or something of that sort, like, a one-on-one, like Stephanie just mentioned. So reach out to her. Feel free to reach out to me. Stephanie, I appreciate it. Body positive. I love it. And I cannot believe that you're not dying when you run marathons.
No, one of the best things in the world.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye.